Hello people, and welcome to Crypto Exposed. Pundit says XRP to reach $10,000 without a doubt. Quote, "It's not a belief, it will," unquote. Yeah, alright. Okay guys, let's get into it. Alright, so who's the pundit in question here? The pundit is Zena. She's someone who's more on X than like on YouTube, as far as I'm aware. If she is on YouTube, I've never seen any of her content. But yeah, once again, here we are talking about the $10,000 theory. Look, I'm just going to break down some of the things that she said here and just say why, you know, some of these things aren't necessarily accurate, and yeah, just, you know, once again, just poke holes in this theory. So, you know, I'm sure the defenders and the believers are going to come out in arms at this, but it is what it is. I'm here to try and provide clarity for the people who, you know, are willing to just hear logic and reason and just willing to be open-minded and then make a decision. Whether you agree with me or not after that is completely up to you. Okay, so yeah, so as I say, Zena, she's someone who's on X. And she's saying here that she believes $10,000 is going to happen. She's saying it's not about, you know, belief. It actually will happen. So look, the first thing I'll say about that is when people talk like this, already you can tell they're in fantasy land. No one can guarantee anything. Nobody, 100%. She can't guarantee. David Schwartz can't guarantee. Brad Garlinghouse can't guarantee. Nobody can guarantee. So first and foremost, if you're saying it will, no, you don't know for sure it will at all. So with all this, without a doubt, yeah, okay, that's your conviction. I understand that. But your conviction just goes as far as your belief goes. That's it, right? So there's nothing about this that would give me like confidence to say, oh, you know, like, oh yeah, so it's definitely going to happen if she's saying it will happen. Like, that doesn't really add anything to the argument. But let's get into some of the reasons as to why she's been saying that she believes this will happen, because this is where I kind of started to chuckle a little bit with some of the things that she was explaining as to why she believes this will be a thing. Okay, so Zena believes critics will always exist. So yeah, she's saying that critics will always exist. Look, the thing for me is, like, I don't deem myself a critic when I talk about this because I'm an XRP holder. I'm just trying to give you the reality of why this is just completely unrealistic. And I don't think that's me being critical. This is just me applying evidence and data, right? And just coming to a conclusion. So this is where it's like, you know, you get people these days who, like, if you just say something that's like not positive about something, you're a hater. And it's like, no, I'm not a hater of XRP. I hold XRP. I would love this to be true. But when I look at my reasonings, when I look at my evidence, and when I look at my data, there's nothing to me to suggest that this is really possible. And so that's the conclusion that I draw. That's not me being critical or negative. It's just not something I can believe because there's so much evidence that goes against it. So this is me just giving you my honest thoughts and opinions here. Okay, so yeah, let's go into this then. So she's referred to figures like Bearable Guy, a mysterious influence in the XRP community who believes XRP is largely undervalued. Zena pointed out that Ripple executives such as Brad Garlinghouse and David Schwartz have followed this figure, which he sees as a strong clue that he may know something. Okay, so if you guys who don't know who the Bearable Guy is, he's basically the bear, right? I don't know if you've seen that guy. Like, you should have seen him if you've been in the XRP community long enough. He's the one where you've got these pictures, and basically people believe that these pictures they're basically meant to be like clues. So like, these pictures are just really random pictures. Like, there's a few of them. So there's like calendars on one of the pictures where they're in a room and there's fireworks and the bear's just sitting there like celebrating. So that's kind of meant to be indicated of like the day when XRP is really going to take off. You've got one where like the Bearable Guy, which is the bear, as I say, you know, sitting at a table with different people, and these different people are meant to represent like, you know, different people of world banks and stuff like that. And it's meant to be like negotiations. So you get the drift, right? It's like these random pictures that have been done and people are just basically applying their own speculation to these pictures, believing that these are all like codes and hints as to XRP's future. In my opinion, it's absolutely ridiculous. These are just random pictures. Like, anybody can apply any kind of logic to a picture. You know what I mean? Like, this is where I say, like, for example, with art, it's subjective. You know, one person could look at art and give you their thoughts on a picture, and another person could look at a piece of art and give you a completely different opinion on a picture, but it's the same picture. So obviously if you just show something and they're trying to make it like, yo, this is some, secret coding about XRP, yeah, people can all sit there and try and draw these narratives from it and trying to make out it's something that it's not. But in my opinion, I think this is just someone who is just trying to get big on X, on YouTube. They'd made some random things, made out like this was this big secret thing to make out like they knew something that others didn't, and has just been claiming that ever since. And that's all I think this is. Like, I've not seen anything related to the bearable guy or these pictures that have come to, be remotely, true in terms of, like people making these claims of this will be the date according to this picture and stuff like that. And this is again the problem with this kind of stuff, because the bearable guy isn't telling you what the picture is meant to represent. It's always left open to interpretation, right? So if you get it wrong, he can say, well, you didn't interpret it right. That's not what it's meant to be. So it's one of these things where it's open-ended, right? Like there's never meant to be a clear answer. And I think that's the whole point. He's putting out these things where you can't have the right answer. You just keep speculating. And for him, he just keeps looking like he's this mysterious genius, right? He just knows all this secret stuff about XRP. Look, let me say this. If let's just say any of this was true, do you think Ripple would be allowing him to have a profile and keep putting out these hints and tips about XRP's future if this was all true? Do you think they would be happy having all this? No. Now, they're talking here about how David Schwartz and Brad Garlinghouse have, followed him in the past. To me, this is just them playing into the comedy of it all. I don't see it as anything more than that. I think they just see it as it's something that's funny. They're just joining in with the games. Like there was one point where Brad Garlinghouse, his followers was like 589. And, obviously there's this theory that XRP was going to go up to $589. And everybody was thinking that this is a sign of what Brad Garlinghouse is trying to tell you. I think he's just playing into the joke, right? Like people are saying these things, so he's just kind of going along with it for the jokes of it. Do you know what I mean? For the comedy of it. Because at the end of the day, look, I'm not going to say I necessarily agree with some of that, because I've heard that David Schwartz has done that as well. Like he's kind of leaned into some of these theories and stuff like that for like a joke. Now, I'm not saying when he does it, it's always clear, because that's how I've heard. I've heard sometimes it's like he's saying these things, but it's almost like he's kind of leaning into it to a point where he's trying to see like, are people going to believe it or not? And that can lead to confusion. So if that is the case, and I don't want to say it 100% is, because this isn't something that I've seen with my own eyes, so I'm going to reserve that judgment. But if that is the case, then yeah, I agree it's a bit messed up, because while you are having a laugh, people are misinterpreting this kind of stuff. People are taking this kind of stuff as like, true fact, which, don't get me wrong. I do think to some degree it is a bit gullible of people to be like, trying to make out like this bear is something, or this representation of someone who knows all this stuff about XRP. But, it's one of these things where like, you've got to have a level of responsibility, right? So if that is true, I will be honest, I do think Brad and David do need to be a bit more careful with how they play into these things, because they have got to understand that there are people who do take this stuff at face value, and they will just believe like anything they see, and they might take that in on board, and that might affect what they do financially. But yeah, I just think that's them just playing along with this stuff. I really don't think this is anything where they're following the bearable guy because they're like, yeah, we believe this guy, or we're into what he's doing. Like it's just a joke, right? Like he's just someone who's putting out this random stuff and they're just following him for fun. Anyway, let's move on from that. Okay, so here you go. You got Zena says here, skeptics dismiss these ideas as nonsense, but Zena urged people to consider that maybe they're missing the bigger picture. She mentioned that Ripple co-founder Arthur Britto reportedly once said XRP was built to reach $10,000. According to her, even if he exaggerated slightly, this still leaves room for enormous growth. Now, in this article, I don't know if they're just trying to be correct from a journalistic standpoint, because they said Arthur Britto reportedly said that, which is very accurate there, and that's just something that I just want to get into. So, okay, I want to show you something here, okay? So this is stuff that I found about Arthur Britto in regards to this, because I've seen this before. Like, people have said that Arthur Britto claimed that, XRP was designed to go to $10,000, and it come off of the back of a YouTube video that was done in 2019, right? Now, this was a thing where it was like an influencer again, like someone trying to get big on YouTube, and I think they've basically applied their own speculation to it. There's nothing around where you've got anything of Arthur Britto actually saying this. And so I will show you where I think this has come from. And you've got here, like, this is a conversation. So I'm not sure where this was. I don't know if it's like Reddit or something and Arthur Britto was on there, but there's a conversation going on here. But this is where I think it's come from. It says here, looking forward, the XRP ledger needs to be able to scale to serve 7.5 plus billion people and even more devices. Now, what I think's happened here is they've seen that, the 7.5 plus billion people, then they've started to do the moonboy maths, right? Saying, well, okay, how much have we got of a circulating supply? Well, that means not everybody can hold XRP. So how much is that going to raise up the demand of XRP? So what's that going to lead to in price, right? All that kind of stuff, right? And like doing that moonboy maths kind of thing. But I think you've got to understand what's actually being said here. If you actually read the full thing, you can get a bigger context of what they're actually saying. So it says the purpose of the reserve is to protect the ledger from ledger spam. However, accounts are currently needlessly being created by at least one popular exchange as a deposit address per user when only a single deposit address is required for the entire exchange. Clearly, the reserve is not high enough yet to prevent this spam. Looking forward, the XRP ledger needs to be able to scale to serve 7.5 plus billion people and even more devices. The current account mechanism likely doesn't scale to this level. Therefore, only those accounts that are most needed should be created. The reserve provides a barrier to entry for unneeded accounts. Okay, so let's just stick with that. So if you listen to what he's actually basically saying here, he's talking about people opening up wallets, right? Now, when he's saying 7.5 plus billion people, it doesn't necessarily mean that 7.5 plus billion people are actually going to open a wallet, right? Because when you're talking about crypto, like, not everybody's an XRP holder, right? You've got people who are Bitcoin holders, people who are Ethereum holders, Cardano holders, HBAR holders, etc., etc. You get the gist. So it doesn't necessarily mean that everybody in the world is going to have an XRP wallet. That doesn't necessarily have to be the case. But what you have also got to think about is when you talk about 7.5 plus billion people, it could be that they're serviced in other ways. So, for example, ODL/Ripple payments, right? If you think about, these people maybe wanting to do cross-border transfers, they could be served via the bank, but that's not that individual person having to hold XRP. They're going to the bank or whatever. They're saying, hey, can I do this transfer, cross-border? And they say, yeah, no problem. This is what it's going to cost, etc. Obviously, it'll be dirt cheap and instant now if you're using XRP. They say, yep, happy days, all good with that. And then XRP has been utilized to serve that customer. But that customer hasn't had to hold XRP, right? So when they're talking about serving 7.5 plus billion people, it doesn't necessarily mean that 7.5 billion plus people have literally got to have an XRP account or actually use XRP. It could be that they're indirectly using XRP. Do you see what I mean? And so again, this is where people take these things out of context and they make out like it's something. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that this isn't a big thing. Like, I'm not saying that, XRP won't be big. I'm not saying that at all. I think XRP will be successful, but people take these things out of context and make it sound bigger than what it actually is. And they're misrepresenting what's actually being said. And this is how these influencers get huge, because they say things like this and they're just taking things wildly out of context and people lap it up. So just one thing I want to go back to here just to confirm this. You've got here, however, there's no direct proof of Britto himself publicly stating that XRP would reach $10,000. So there you have it. There's no actual video, there's no article, there's no tweets, there's no interview. There's nothing here specifically that actually says that Arthur Britto has actually publicly stated that XRP would reach $10,000. So do you see what I mean here when I'm talking about this kind of thing? Like, I don't know if, for example, like with Zena here, I don't know if she's just kind of knows this, but she's just saying it because she wants to, blindly lead her followers into believing what she's saying and, believing what she's believing. Or if she's just one of these people who's really blinded by the hype herself. Like, she really could be under this, this illusion of the whole thing of XRP and $10,000. But this is why I say, like, these are people who clearly don't do a lot of research, because it's not hard to find these things. It didn't take me long to cook up this video, right? Like, it didn't take me long to just get these articles here and show you this evidence that's being said. So it's like, if people can just like kind of go past like all the hype influencers and all the echo chamber of what's around them and actually do their own research and just do a couple Google searches and stuff like that, you can kind of find the answers to these things. You've just got to be willing to do it yourself and not be like misled by other people, right? And so, yeah, like this is what I'm saying, you know, the reasons what she's saying here in regards to XRP hitting $10,000, they're really like, they're really flimsy reasons. They're really, you know, kind of silly reasons, like especially the bearable guy thing. Like that to me, if you're relying on the bearable guy as your reasoning as to why you think XRP can hit $10,000, this little cartoon bear that they've created that's been around literally, I can't remember how long now, but like from before I got into crypto and XRP, and nothing's come true. It's kind of like that Mr. Pool character. I don't know if you've heard of that guy as well. Like there's a character called Mr. Pool that's on X, and he's been around for years just putting up like random pictures and saying these things are going to happen, and just he's been this really mystic character. And he's got to a point now where people just laugh at him because like he keeps saying these things are going to happen and posting these pictures, and people have just kind of got to the point now it's like everything you do, like you just do it cryptic, so you're not really saying anything. So yeah, at first people were intrigued and people kind of was buying it, but they've kind of been like, it's years, like nothing's happened. So it's like you either like post what's actually going on or just don't post because nobody's taking him seriously anymore. And I think that's the way it is with a bearable guy. I mean, you may have some people who are still, you know, really believe in him, which is weird, but you know, like I think a lot of people are kind of at this point now, it's like, where's the evidence? I think they're tired of it, and I'm actually glad that's the case, because that's the way it should be. It should be at a point now, it's like, if you can't provide anything substantial as evidence to back up what you're saying, don't bother saying anything. You know, stop doing the hype. Like, stop just posting random things and just expecting people to just take it in. We've been doing that for many, many years now. Like, we're past that. So I just want people to be at this point now where, like, unless you can provide like solid evidence and data to back up your theories, I don't think people should buy what you're saying, and I think you should have to do more. Like, this is played out at this point, and I hope people are a lot more skeptical of this stuff, because it's, you know, this has been going on for many, many years, and we're yet to see anything like what's been claimed by Xena and Bearable Guy and many others. So no, again, this doesn't give me any kind of confidence about XRP hitting $10,000. She might be blinded and, you know, deluded into thinking that that's a fact, but it's not. It's not a fact. It's not a guarantee. It is a belief. It 100% is a belief, because she can't guarantee it. And the things that she's put forward to try and prove what she's saying are really flimsy at best. So yeah, like very weak arguments here, to be honest with you. So I'll leave it at that. I'm sure the guys are going to come in attacking me now just because I'm trying to spread the truth. But for the people out there who can be open-minded and understand that I'm not attacking XRP, I'm a holder, I hope this has helped, because all I want to do is help you guys know the truth. You guys make your own decision after this, what you want to believe. I'm just trying to give you an alternative point of view for you to take in. And for me, I've always said this, like, you haven't got to just go by what I'm saying. Go and do your own research. You know, if you can go and find evidence that goes against what I'm saying, come in the comments. Say, hey, I found this and this and this, and I disagree. Cool. We can have a conversation. That's fine. But like, do your research. Don't just take in what these people are saying, because these people are just spoon feeding you nonsense, to be honest with you. And there's really not a lot to support it. So if you just take a bit of time out to do your own research, you'll see that there's really not a lot to what they're saying at all. And this is why it's so easy to kind of, you know, go through these influencers and kind of poke holes in what they say, because it's really not strong arguments that they put forward. So I'll leave it there, but I hope this has helped. Thank you very much for watching this. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And hit that bell. Take care.